Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Well, welcome back. It's another week. It's another new model. It's actually Halloween today, so I hope you had your fill of candies and not too many tricks were played upon you. It's also a feast or famine time around here because for a while I've been struggling. We haven't had too many new kits come out, and not that I haven't had wonderful things to build. I really had a time to take 3 weeks and do the Doomsday Machine. Had a blast with that. Apparently it was well received, so that's always fun. But now, within the span of 2 days, 2 new kits have come in, and for the longest time I had been, not 2 days, I have to go back and amend that. Math is within a week. 2 new kits have come out, and I was all planning to do this new Razor Crest, which is the round 2 version of the Razor Crest, when Mail Call brings this wee beastie in. This is the big Mobius space clipper, and I have to tell you, I remember seeing this at the Nationals in Vegas last year, and I was not remembering it quite this big, but it's a huge kit. It's by the time you put everything together, it is a honking big kit. That's a good size. That's a good size clipper, but I didn't want to push the Razor Crest back another week. So we're going to do the Razor Crest this week, and I don't know why we can't finish it this week. We should be able to do the Razor Crest this week. Do the start on the Orion, or it's not the Orion. It's the Clipper. I'll start on the Clipper next week. So we're going to combine the meet the parts on this round 2 Razor Crest with a straight up comparison of the Revell Razor Crest, which I had already done about a year ago. I think it just came up on my timeline as a memory. So let's get down to the table and take a look at it. Okay, so here are the parts. Now, of course, I've taken the Bandai off the table because it really doesn't. It's not a fair comparison. It's apples and oranges, or tomatoes and baby tomatoes. In which case, anyway, it's gone. But this is the old Revell Razor Crest. This is the round 2 Razor Crest. Now, because there are so many R's involved, I'm liable to slip up and call the one thing the wrong thing, and you're just going to have to forgive me for that, because I'm old and I'm starting to get forgetful. Now, I will call this the AMT Razor Crest, even though it grates on me because Star Trek kits are AMT, Star Wars kits are MPC. Doesn't matter. It's all round 2. It's all round 2. Now, it has been well known in various circles since the kit was announced that there was going to be differences between the 2 versions. The Revell kit has a full interior on the cargo bay. You saw me build that. I can put a link right up in the corner to the old build series if you want to go back and revisit that. But it has a full interior, and it's been out for quite a while now. This new AMT / round 2 version has a full cockpit, but no cargo bay. So take that into your consideration, amongst other things. Now, I checked this morning, and they're both costing in the same ballpark. Not exactly the same, but in the same ballpark. So you have to think about, can you get this kit? Is it available in your area? What's shipping going to cost you? Things like that. If it's on the shelf and you can pick it up, it's obviously going to be cheaper that way. So I've gone through the parts. I've met the parts. The parts are amazingly similar. It's the same kit, essentially. It's the same subject. Think of it more like the Revell Enterprise versus the AMT Enterprise, or the MPC original Falcon versus the Fine Molds Falcon. It's the same subject, but handled slightly differently. And it really all depends on what you want to get out of your kit. Now, the nice thing about this subject is you can build it landed or you can build it in flight. If you're going to build it landed and make a diorama, then frankly, the Revell is where you want to go because it's got that full interior and you can, have the ramps down and build out and, do some custom scratch building even if you'd like and really make up a nice diorama, which is what I did when I built mine. If you're more interested in doing something in flight, then go with the round 2 kit, and I'll tell you why. When I built and lit the Revell kit, it was an amount of work to get the engines lit. Now I did light them, and if I can pull off here and still see hopefully my lights are still working after all this time. Yes, they are still working after all this time of putting I think I put T-lamps in there, flickering T-lamps. But I also had to go in and hollow out or hog out a lot of the engine, the back part of the engine. Now, the new kit, the round 2 kit, has that part already hollowed out. It comes ready for lighting. So in that respect, it is a much better kit if your interest is in lighting it. It's this part here. Now it also has more parts that make up the engines. But whereas this was a solid piece in the Revell kit, it comes with the window or with the openings already in it. So much better for lighting, and this insert for sticking the LED in again was something that I had to create to make this light up. So that's already been handled for you. Something else that has been handled, I think better, is the cockpit. The cockpit on the round 2 version, I think, is much more accurate and just better. Now you can get down to comparing plate to plate and is that detail on this and that little bingy detail is that on. You can lay the parts side by side and you will see that you've got 99% agreement in the parts because they're both using the same source material to make their molds. So that, like I said, if you want to go down and count the rivets and see which one of those you like better, knock yourself out. But I think having built the old Revell kit, that the cockpit is handled better in the round 2 kit. So certainly the Mando figure itself, which was hideously oversized in the Revell kit, back to the point where I had to go out and 3D print my own. This is the figure here is much better, and if you look right here, you can see this tiny little grain of plastic. That is Grogu. That is the tiny baby Yoda. So they've got down to the just don't snip it off and lose it. But they've got him in his basket to go up in the cockpit as well. So where the new version shines is in the cockpit and in the engines. And that's going to make a much better in-flight version, which is what I'm going to do. This version was the landed version with the cargo bay and all that. That's lovely. But since I'm interested in doing an in-flight version, this meets all the stuff I needed to do without anything extraneous. If you are the kind of dyed-in-the-wool person who goes around telling people, no, his name isn't Baby Yoda, his name is Grogu, chances are you already have this kit. You've already built it. Should you buy another one? Again, if this is the way, if this is what this is your thing, chances are, yes, you're going to buy another one. if this is your only exposure to The Mandalorian and you've not got a big interest in making the cargo bay, then yes, this is the way to go. the way. This is the way. They both paint up the same. They're both ridiculously simple. It's a silver coat with some yellow accents. This, if you are a newbie to lighting, is going to be a lot friendlier for you. People have asked me, Lou, I want to start lighting my kits, but I don't know where to start. Well, this is a good kit to start with because you've got the two lights in the engines. If you want to put blinking strobes on it, you can, because there are formation lights on the top of the engine. I have to go back and check because I don't think they blink. I think they're constant. I think that's the way I did mine, is I made them constant. So I think I must have researched that at the time. And you can stick a bulb or two in the cockpit and show up the detail that way. And I think you'll get a lot out of it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to move this one off the screen. We're going to build up this kit, and we're going to build it up in flight using the dome base and all of that. And we're going to light I keep wanting to call them nacelles. We're going to light the engines, and we're going to light the two little lights that are up here. And I think we're going to try to light up these guys again, the top of the engines. So let's get to it. Clean off the decks here a little bit and get the glue out and start the gluing. Okay, I've just taken last few minutes to start this kind of work here. It's the first thing they tell you to do, which is to trim out these turkey feathers here, something like that. And I can't for the life of me figure out why this part wasn't molded this way. And it says, if you're lighting your model, remove plastic from the spaces shown around it. But I can't see any harm in why, even if you weren't lighting your kit, why you wouldn't open those up. So that's a head scratcher. I can't figure out why they wouldn't just go ahead and do that. But when you put it together, it does look like that, so that you can see the lighting inside. Now this insert goes this way, and it lights up you stick an LED in that tube, and that lights up all around it to give the effect that you want. So I've got one more of those to do, and I'm just taking this plain old piece here and hitting it with the Dremel with the cutting bit. I'm just sliding it in there and then moving it and going around. It's a lot easier than trying to carve them out by hand, I gotta tell you that. We'll do that any day of the week rather than carve those out by hand. Also, I have been working at putting the engine chunks together. Now, if I'm remembering correctly on the Revell kit, these were only 2 parts, top and bottom. Here they are 4 parts. That doesn't necessarily make it any better, just different. But the seams are very, very well concealed inside of the plating, so that you don't have any obvious seams to sand once you're done, except of course what happens here. Would have liked to have seen this piece as cast as one piece like these were, so that you didn't have to worry about that seam, but I'm not in charge of how they make models at round 2. So I'm working on those, putting some of those sub-assemblies together, and we'll continue this way until we run out of sub-assemblies and we're ready to start priming. Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, day 2 on the round 2 Razor Crest, and it's amazing how quickly something goes together when you're not concerning yourself with the landing gear. That just went together so much easier. Now, of course, this is just all dried fit. I'm going to start doing some of the accent painting. One of the nicer things about this kit is that this is an insert piece. On the previous version, this was all molded in, and you never could really get a good grasp at it when it came to getting the grime and the gunk down in there. But being that it's a separate piece now, you can paint this up and really take your time with it and insert it up under there before you get ready to glue down your top. And I'm just fitting the engines onto the side to see how they're going to work, and I think they'll be fine. It struck me yesterday as I was putting this together that an industrious person, maybe somebody younger than me, could actually make this part spin if they were so inclined. The way it sits now, I've got it glued in strictly to help me align these two parts and keep the roundness. But if you wanted to, you could actually motorize this part, because the part that sits in front of it doesn't really come in contact with it, and you could make those turbines spin. Just something out there for the uber detail oriented, something that you could not do with the previous kit because that was all molded together. So what I'm going to do is pull out some black paint now that I've got primer on everything. Pull out some black paint so that I can prime this in black, which will really make the silver paint pop. Alrighty, we're getting into the guts of it now, and I started by marking off the walls and painting the cockpit a cockpit green. Imagine that. I think the color call out asks for something a little bit darker, but what the heck, I got cockpit green. I think I like it. I'm going to put a wash over it. Of course, it has to have decals put on all the walls, but and really this middle wall here is going to be in the realm of who the heck is ever going to see it. So I'm just now I'm going to put the guns together, and the guns, of course, you would like to light up, but because the barrel is a solid piece, makes it very difficult. Now, if you were to rebuild that in brass, you're a braver man than I, or a woman, not to be discriminatory, a braver soul than I, to recreate that in metal. But I suppose one could if one were devoted enough. So we're going to put those guns together. You can see we've got the black drying here before we go any experiments on the silver finish itself. The way the cockpit is designed, or the way the kit is designed, cockpit has to be built first before you can seal anything up. So I'm going to build it all up, and then I'm going to see if there's any lighting that can be put in addition to maybe an overhead light. Or I think I did on the previous version. I put a light down at Mando's feet, and I don't know if that's going to be something similar I can do here. So let's get it all together. I do like the detail on this a lot better. I got to tell you, the control yoke on it is much superior. Okay, time for a break. I've been painting in details, and that gets tedious really quick. Painting in some of the gunmetal on the cockpit, painting in the chairs. Yeah, just a little squinty work with a tiny brush that wears on you after a while. Alrighty, I think I am willing to designate my silver experiment, or my chrome experiment, a success. This was black primer, and for that I used the Mission Models black primer, and the Vallejo acrylic chrome over top of it. Lightly sprayed, just in the areas where it needs to go. But I think that came out quite successful. That left all the shadows where I wanted them, and if needs be, I can go in there with either a rust or a grime and kind of junk that up a little bit. But I've tried it on the engine inserts and on the turbine inserts. I think I'm happy with that. So given those results, I'm going to go ahead and at least do the black primer on maybe the bottom tub and the top here, and let those sit, and then while that's happening I can concentrate on the lighting of the engines. Okay, so I've got a good coating of black primer on the top and on the bottom tub of the Razor Crest, and I'm going to take advantage of the beautiful weather out. It's a little cool, but it's clear and sunny, so that's good. I'm going to take advantage of that, and I'm going to throw some primer on the Space Clipper kit because those pieces are huge, And I want to go ahead and do that, even though I'm not going to be getting to it this week. I still want to, who knows what the weather will be like next week. I might not have the opportunity. So this is how you have to roll when the fall weather rolls in. You just have to start taking things out of order and making the best while the sun shines. Alrighty, one last thing before the end of the day, and I wanted to get the decal down. I don't want to do all the decals on the cockpit. I can do some of that tomorrow, but the one I wanted to get done tonight would be the floor, because everything else is kind of built on that, and I want that to be drying overnight. Now, any long-time viewers to the channel will know I have a love-hate relationship with Round 2 and their decals, and that continues. Decal, I've got this all glossed up, ready to go. Here's the decal. Now, do you see what's missing or what's not missing on this decal? I'll give you a second. 3, 2, 1. Why didn't they cut out for the chair? Why? They cut out for the hatch there. The hatch decal is cut out, but nothing for the post. That's going to be a lot harder to guesstimate. But the only thing you can do would be to lay it down wet and then kind of cut it with an X-Acto, which is, caveman stuff. It was right there in the file. Why not just cut a little hole there? Oh well, let's get this thing down. Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday. It is the hump of the week, and I'll start that again because that didn't sound good. Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday. We're continuing work on the Razor Crest, and we're finishing the decals on the cockpit. A lot of the color in this cockpit is dictated by the decals. I've got everything painted, got gloss where the decals are going to go. I've even gotten a flat coat back over the floor like I wanted so that we can start building on that. There's really nothing to it but to get down with the tweezers, because you've got tiny little grain of rice baby Yoda here that has to go in his wee bassinet with the wee cover for the bassinet on it. And I've already mistakenly cut the pin for the bassinet. I thought it was part of the sprue. It was not. But luckily, a dab of glue will take care of it. But just something to be on the lookout for. There is a hole in the back of the chair that the bassinet is supposed to... I'm calling it a bassinet. I don't care what it's called. The hover bassinet is supposed to sit like that. And I had mistakenly cut that off. So be wary, be aware of that, be mindful of that part. So I think I've got a base coat of paint on these, but I think that it's something that's going to be easier to paint once it's all together and you see what parts are actually visible. No sense painting the inside of Grogu's ears if you're not going to see them, that sort of thing. That, and I've got to get the arms on Mando, and once I've got the I can mock up how the console is going to sit so I can make sure that his hands are in the right position. But then a lot of his details are also decals. His face is a decal, his belt is a decal, things like that. So you have to be mindful of those things as well. So let me go ahead and put this much of the console together just to mock it up so that I can sit him on the floor. And let me see, fit him on the floor, put the back wall in to kind of hold everything in place. You never really notice it until you are starting to look at the details of it, but this back wall does look a lot like Boba Fett's helmet. Just the color and the shape of it, the silhouette of it. So we've got the chair here now. And if you put him in first, actually, I think you might need to glue him in first, or else his knees will not let the controls sit as they should. We might have to do an Anakin on him and cut his legs off. Let's see, if I put the chair in first and put him over it, is that going to help? Put him in his chair first and then put the walls down. Yeah, I think that's how you're gonna have to do it. I think you're gonna have to set him in first, the way those controls are looking, and then put his arms in. Oh, I hate to have to do it that way, but I think that's that's what you're gonna need to do, unless you want to do some medical experimenting on. Yeah, his hands will actually grip the controls. Not too shabby. I wonder if we could glue him to the controls, and then actually by what's the word I'm looking for? By default, if you glue him to the controls by default, you will set the chair and the walls down on the floor at the same time. Something to think about. Alright, so I've just finished up doing whatever little decaling I could do. I've got a couple more to go left to go on Mando himself, but I'm waiting for that to dry before I put those down. And I learned a valuable lesson. These blue decals, they look okay, but you know, you could paint those in. I'd lost somewhere on this table these last two tiny blue decals, and I figured I'd just paint them in, and honestly they look better than the decals. So don't let them think you have to use a decal. I gotta tell you, the blue against the green, those having very close to the same value, they don't show up that well. I'm hoping when I put the flat coat over it, it's all going to come back and look better. But for right now, I'm not wildly enthusiastic about the color scheme on that door. Like I said, letting all this stuff dry, and then I'll hit it with a flat coat. I'm worried about my little grain of rice Grogu and his slightly larger grain of rice carry-all, his bassinet right here. So I'll be glad to get away from all this little tedious work, get back to the bigger stuff. Alrighty, believe me, he's in there now. All of those walls need to have the decal seal on them for a while before I am ready to put a flat coat on them. But I need to pick this up and get it off the table and get it out of the way for right now. That's the tiny face plate decal on his shiny chrome dome there, and the arms have been glued in place. But yeah, that's a lot of fiddly work, to quote the great Wayne. That is fiddly work. And I've got the chairs. Zoom back out. I've got the two chairs to put against the walls, but I want to make sure that they are also flat coated first. And you can see the 3 molecules of paint that make up Grogu, and even that needs to be touched up a little bit. But Cockpit's ready to be put aside, and I think I want to do something big. So I think I'm going to do the first pass of the chroming on the at least the bottom part. I don't know whether it's best to put all of this together and then chrome the whole thing at once, or to chrome it now and then touch up that seam after I glue the two halves together. I think I want to chrome it now only because I want to see something bright and shiny. Okay, big results now. I've just gone over the top and bottom with the Model Air chrome. Shook up really well. It doesn't give you a bright shiny chrome. It's not a Molotow, but it does a darn good job of doing the coverage, and you got to have some place to go if you want to put I may put some Molotow highlights on here, and so you got to have some place, you know, that's not as, you have to have some place to go with your Molotow. I didn't mean to make that rhyme, but it did. If you can accomplish, you know, a chrome finish here, you've basically got no place else to go. So what you want is a good silvery chrome-ish finish that you can weather down and brighten up, which is where I'm at now. So we're going to let that dry. What I had used on this part before, on this part I used the metal color from Vallejo, and I got a lot of good results with that. I wanted to try to see what this metallic Vallejo Model Air, it's the same family, it's still Vallejo, I'm not cheating on it with anybody, but it's two different paint lines in the same family. Alrighty, I just dodged a major bullet. I was going through my LED stash and I was not finding any red LEDs until I happened to cross this old bag. This old bag from Electronic Gold Mine that said red LEDs on it. And that's good because, like I said, I was scrambling. I have just made a huge order to Evans to get restocked up on my SM LEDs. And I highly recommend them. If you don't know about Evans Design, www.evansdesigns.com. That's where I get all of my very small SM LEDs and many colors, many sizes, and very quick service. I highly recommend them. So what I've got is I've got the flickering amber lights that come out of these T-lamps, and I like them because they flicker. No special wiring, no special circuitry needed. They just do that. Excuse me. But they run on 3 volts, so I gotta up the volt. I gotta put a resistor on them so that I can up the voltage. But what's gonna happen is that's gonna sit in there something like that, and it's gonna give me my engine flicker. So you can see it flickering. But I'm also going to need the before mentioned reds, because I need to put a fiber optic on the top and the bottom so that we have our little LED mark light, or red marker light. There should be one on the top here and one on the bottom at about the same location. And that's about the only lighting that has to happen to the exterior of the Razor Crest. There's 2 little lights that go right down in front on the nose at the bottom, and I can use another one of these with a with another fiber bundle on it to do that. And I've got it down to where I need basically 3 red LEDs for the whole ship. So I just need to get my wiring stuff back out and proceed to make with the brightness. Okay, so I'm having a play around with some LEDs. While I was searching through the stash, I came across some other warm white LEDs that I haven't used for a while, and I thought, you know, I've got all the room in the world in I keep wanting to call them nacelles. In these engines, I've got all the room in the world. Why am I squandering the opportunity to use big, these are lighthouse LEDs, to use those instead of the surface mounts. Surface mounts should be saved for the time when you can't use anything else. When you've got the opportunity and the space and all of that, you should splurge and use the bigger LEDs. So that's what I'm doing. And right now I'm just frosting up these inserts so that they will diffuse the light, spread the joy around a little bit better. I'm still going to use the big 5mm flickering yellows for the center, but I've got these warm whites that are I'm going to basically take, and I've drilled holes for the lighthouse bits, which is also going to kind of hold them in place. And what that's going to allow me to do, let me see if I can do this right here, make sure I've got it. Nope, that's not right. Try that again. Okay, so I need to know that that is the positive, so or that goes in that way. I'm going to run 3 of these off of the same resistor, creating a little ring of lights that looks something like that. Let's see if I can, there you go. Something like that. So that when I put the cap over it, we get plenty of light coming around the edges, and I'll still have the flickering colored light in the center. I think that's going to give us a nice nice effect. And of course the troubling thing is, or the nice thing about this, shall I say, is once you figure out how you're going to do one, you just carry that information over to the other one. It's not a you save time, because once you figure out one engine, you just do that again. All of the brain work is done up front. So I'm going to make up 2 of these circuits, and we are going to start packing the engines with them. Okay, we're going to finish the day off with a small demonstration here. Get the wires all joined up. There you go. My fear was that the outer ring was not going to get enough of the light distribution, but that looks pretty good. And of course, the old song and dance about the camera adding 20 pounds. It also makes LEDs look brighter than they actually are. But there you can see the yellow flicker from the candlelight inside, and then basically 3 white, or 3 warm white LEDs around the outside. Let's go ahead and unplug that. So you can see there's 3 LEDs. Pull that out. There, 3 LEDs attached that way. So all I gotta do is make another one of these now that I know the hard part is done, the brain work is done. Make up another one of these in the morning and we'll be good to go. Okay, now I'm ready to close down for the day. I figured since I had the soldering iron all warmed up, I would go ahead and finish up. I gotta do a little better job of aiming the LEDs, because this one here looks more yellow than that one looks more orange, but they're the same. They just need to have the center LED needs to be pushed out a little bit further, and then we can seal everything in clear epoxy. Hey everybody, it's Thursday. It's the gateway to the weekend. I've just spent a few minutes here making up some manifolds for some fiber optics, and these will house all of the red lights like that. That's just 2 wee lights that come out of the top, and these are going to be my running lights that go at the top and bottom of each of the engines. And I think I figured out this is how I want to get everything together and get it wired. Let's go ahead and attach the top parts of the engines to the top part of the ship, and then pull my wiring in together, solder it all together, and send it out the bottom. It's so nice when you're not putting batteries inside the kit, and you can just run everything out to a bulb. Oh, I got the cockpit all put together. Now this was something that I did first thing this morning, was go ahead and glue up everything that had dried overnight, and had put a flat coat on it. So I think one last thing to do would be to put a gloss bubble of do I want to use, let's see, I can use gloss varnish, I can use epoxy, I could use a number of things. I think I'm going to use just a bit of Tamiya clear though over the monitors or over the screens there to give them a little gloss. And I've used a touch of Molotov every once in a while here, particularly on Mando's armor. I really am digging that decal. That make sure this is in focus. But the face that is done as a decal, that was a smart idea from round 2. That turned out very nice. So this is ready to be popped in. There is a well, let me go ahead and see if I can put these together. They just come out the front here. If you don't drop a battery 3 times before you've got it done, You're not paying attention. But there you go. So that's going to light those guys up. And I'll just snip those off when I get to that stage. But I can insulate this and run some power to it. And that's where we're at today. If I can get this guy done, then I can go ahead and sink the cockpit in place. And that sits down there something like that. And then, I mean, there's really not a lot left to do after that point. Alrighty, I'm getting ready to seal up the engines. One last power check to make sure everything is working. Yes, it's ugly and simple, but it works, which again is going to be my carved on my tombstone. Yes, he was ugly and simple, but he worked. 3 lights plus the amber flicker, the red light that goes out to the top and bottom nav beacons. Same, and the nice thing about it is any reflected red light that comes out of the back is a bonus, because that just adds to the engine color. So we've got, again, top and bottom on this side. What I need to do now is mix up one batch of clear epoxy and seal everything, seal all these connections with it, and then I can cover up the engines. My goal is to get everything sealed up today. Today's Thursday. Get everything sealed up today so that I can do the final painting on this tomorrow. Alrighty, I have one last point to ponder. One last bell to answer, one last egg to fry. The cockpit needs some sort of light in it, and I just need to decide where it's going to go. My first inclination, and I think what I'm going to end up doing, I've got a little tiny nano cool white in here, is to put it right about there. That distributes the light evenly. It lights up the whole cockpit. Now here's the quandary. The cockpit itself is not a brightly lit thing. Most of the, if not all of the lighting comes from the consoles. So this is a modeler's conceit. This is not making it look like the filming miniature. I could put it back here and have one light generally do all of the lighting. If I was really daring, I would put it up here so that it lit up the controls and everything. It's a little moodier, but I've got a little less space to put it. And then, of course, I could replace the monitor with it, but then you'd see the light, and I don't necessarily want you to be able to see the light source. So right up in here in the center is that's the extreme version. This is the safe version. I like this because it puts more light on Mando. So we're going to try that. And if it fails, I can plan B it back to here. Alrighty, I think I'm ready for another momentous occasion, and that is the gluing in of the cockpit. You'll be happy to know that the light overhead went in without a hitch. Although I did notice when I was checking it out that a lot of the inside of the canopy is visible when you look up through these smaller windows. So I had to make sure I had painted that. It was a ugly silver, and I needed to put just a coat of black on there, but that's going to sit down something like that. I've got the headlights lit right now, but let's switch that and let's light up the interior. So I can show you how that's going to look. See, that's going to give me good lighting on everything that's happening in there. Again, not the slightest bit Canon, but it's more of a model making conceit. So we glue that down, and then I want to attach this down so that it doesn't want to pull away. So we're going to get the MEK out to glue this, and then after it's glued in, I think I want to run a bead of epoxy just down on top to kind of lock everything in place. Hey kids, now it's time for the biggie. Time for the biggie. I've got to put that onto this. Helps if it's in camera. That onto this. And if anything I have learned from all of the hand-to-hand combat I've done with this kit so far, I have learned that I need a slow acting epoxy, because to get everything juggled around and put into place, it ain't quick. These pins don't line up exactly, you know, they don't fall into place. You gotta do some twisting to get things to fit. So I'm thinking that the 5-minute epoxy that I normally use is not going to handle it. I think I'm going to have to get the 15 out. Strange that there is no 10-minute epoxy. It's like 5, 15, and then 30. It just goes in increments like that. So we're going to have to get the 15-minute epoxy out, and I'm going to goosh all of these pinholes or pin slots, and then some around the edge here. This I want to be very careful with, because I don't want anything sliming into where the cabin is, into the cockpit. So, and of course, you know, the windows have not been put into the outside of that yet. So I want to be very careful. Maybe I will do a little bit of just MEK around here, but then save the big sloppy stuff for this big joint. Alrighty, all the clamps are off. Everything has set up. This is later into Thursday evening, and I'm working later tonight than I normally would, because I need to get this done tomorrow. And in order for me to finish this tomorrow, I need to be ready to hit the ground running first thing with paint. So what I want to do is I have already taken off all the clamps and the tape and all that, and I have sanded up the seams and gotten rid of any splooged out bits of resin, which have not been many, thankfully. What I want to do is hit that seam again with the black, and then perhaps, you know, later this evening, before I turn in, I will hit the engines with a base coat of this silver. And that will give it all night for it to dry and set up and get ready for me to do the weathering and the striping tomorrow, and put the canopy windows in. Okay, so outside of the final, or another coat of silver on this before I turn in, this is ready to go. I went back in and did some re-pre-shading, but yeah, this is looking really, really nice. Okay, we're ready to call it an evening. I just did the engines with the metal color. I like this a little bit better than the Model Air. The Model Air would be like your basic off-the-shelf chrome from Vallejo, and this is like a step or two above that metal color. As long as you shake it very well and for a long time, you can get some nice chrome effect out of that, particularly over black, like you're supposed to. But this is done. This is ready to be ready to sit overnight, and then I'll come back in the morning and do the final weathering and put some washes on it and do like the colored scoring here, and then it's windows and orange stripes, and we'll be done. Hey everybody, it's Friday. It's the last work day of the week, hopefully the last work day on this ship. Only have a couple of things left to do, but they're not simple things by any stretch. I have come up with a set of masks for the windows. Now the windows I put in last night and let them cure overnight, because it was using microcrystal clear and it doesn't dry instantly, but they came out beautifully. If you are getting to this stage and you're putting the windows in, the window masks themselves aren't that vital. What they're important for is keeping them clean at this point. If you're going to paint the stripes on, or if you're going to paint any sort of weathering finish over all of your silver, then you'll want to have your windows masked off. But they don't have to be, you know, the precise window masks that are, you know, the type that you put in at the very beginning and serve as, you know, light blocking and all that kind of stuff, because 90% of your kit is done. This is just a little bit of extra protection, but you do, in case you're painting your canopy around the canopy frame around the windows, you do want to have these windows kind of sectioned off. That's the only real reason, or else I would have just put one big piece of tape over the whole thing. So what I'm doing is I am trying to come up with a way to paint the stripes on, and this will work. The same paint will, or the same method will work whether you were going to paint them on solid like this is a brand new kit or a brand new ship, or if you're going to paint them on weathered and chipped and scratched, or if you want to make them a different color. That's the important thing. If you don't like the orange of the decals and you want to paint them a slightly yellower color, you've got to. I mean, if you want them a different color than the decals are providing, you've got to paint them. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm trying to come up with a way that can, what's the quickest, most effective way to do it, because it's a weird shape. It wraps around a weird angle, and it's just weird. We'll just go with it being weird. So we're going to do this in 2 stages. The first stage is going to do the stripes that go along the top and underside of the top bulkhead. And the important thing that this does is it also sets the spacing and the basic positioning for that big bottom decal, or that big bottom set of stripes. So what I've done is I've taken a piece of vinyl that's got the angle shape cut in it and wrapped it around in such a way that you can see the point of the chevron here is on the correct plane of where the top hull changes to the bottom hull. So we're going to paint that. So we're going to chip it because I want mine to be aged. And then once that dries, we're going to pull all of this off and then do the bottoms. It's not something we can do all at one time, because this top mask will overlap where the bottom mask needs to go. That's the reason why. I mean, that's the best way I could figure out how to do it, and to make sure that everything is symmetrical when you're looking at it from the top. You have one stripe that is not any further back than the other stripe. They both start and end in the same position. And a key thing to know when your stripe is far enough back is when that little raised detail there is just inside the line from here and here. That tells you, and because the vinyl has the shapes cut into it, the spacing between the stripes is already preset. So now that that much is done, I'm going to shake up the chipping medium. I'm using the Vallejo chipping medium. And we're going to spray that on the area where that is open to us. And then we will, once that dries, we will put on the color of paint. It also goes without saying, if you possibly can do it, leave your guns off. It's going to be so much easier to do all of this kind of work without these the big guns being in the way. You can always put them on at the last. Now, if you have found a way to light these miraculously, because that is a solid piece, then you've already made your life difficult enough, and this is just going to add another feature to that difficult life. So leave the guns off. You can put them on at the last bit. I still have yet to put these intake decals on that are going to go up there. Maybe I can be doing that while I'm waiting for this to dry. So we've got the chipping medium in the airbrush. Give it a good shake because it's been on the shelf for a while. It's tough to tell whether it's been mixed up since it's all clear. Make sure something's coming out. It's clear, so it's tough to tell. It's tough to tell whether it's coming out when it's clear. There we go. Okay, so we're going to put that on kind of heavy. Oh, I see what it's doing. I see what it's doing. Okay, and then we'll get underneath and do get both of these. Okay, so I've painted on the first, I think the only coat of the stripe color. This was a special mixture that I've come up with that very closely matches what the decal sheet has. It is a mixture of Mecha Sand Primer, Mecha Yellow, Mecha Heiny Ho, and Model Air Orange. There is a Mecha Orange, but it's a little too fluorescent for my taste. So I went with, but these are all Vallejos. But these are the three colors that I mixed. It's no secret. Well, I'll tell you, it's like 5 drops, 2 drops, and 3 drops to give you the color. We're going to let that sit on top of the chipping medium. I'm going to remove the masks and put the masks on for the bottom half before I do any of the chipping effect. So we're just going to let that paint dry right now and then come back and remove all of those masks except for the window masks. We'll leave those in place, and then we'll mask off for the other areas. I did, while this was drying and before I put the yellow paint down or the orange paint down, I did go in and put these decals on the fronts of the turbines there. You can just barely make them out. I don't know how effective those are, but they're there. Alrighty, now using the negative shapes of the template, I have left an area where I want the orange/yellow stripe to be. I see how I use these downward chevrons as a starting place so that I could match my stripes up to it, and then everything else kind of follows from there. Now, if I stick a piece of tape over that paint that's on there with the chipping medium, it's just going to rip everything straight off. So while I'm spraying, I'm going to be holding a card up against it so that I don't have to worry about taping it off, because like I said, tape would just yank all that stuff right off. So let me go through all of this again to do the other side, and then we'll be ready to put the chipping medium down on the sides. Okay, if you're a real glutton for punishment, I'm including real tiny thin strips so that you can add the pinstriping that goes inside the shape. Now remember, outside of the door here, which is going to be blocked off with tape, what you're seeing bare metal here is what's going to be painted. So yeah, you want to include those pinstripes. Knock yourself out. I'm going to do it just to see if I can. By the time you do all the chipping on there, I don't know how much of that would survive anyway, but I'm trying to duplicate what's on the decal. Okay, while the chipping medium is drying, I went out to check the mail, and to my wondering eyes should appear my order from Evans Lighting. The SM LEDs, I ordered a scant 3 days ago. That is excellent service, I gotta tell you. Yes, I got a bunch of whites and reds, and I'm stocked back up for a while. Thank you, kind people at Evans. And if that weren't all, remember what I said a while ago about feast or famine? And right now we are feasting. This is the latest box from Steve at Cult TV Man, and I know exactly what this is because I have been waiting for this for a while. Not from Steve's order, but I've been waiting for a model like this for a while. And it is the Maria from Metropolis. Iconic model. That has to be in everybody's robot collection. Now don't mind this. I actually prefer this. Steve and I have a interesting relationship in that, I sell a lot of my products through his site, and whenever I hear something coming out, I always say, Steve, hey, deduct from the last invoice for X models, and I get my models from Steve, and that's worked very well so far. Well, I always ask for a scratch and dent box. It does two things. I build my models. I don't sit them in the stash and forget about them. So it gets a crushed box, and I know the model is never going to be harmed. It's just the aesthetics of the box. It gets a crushed box out of Steve's inventory, and I'm going to go ahead and build it so he's not losing any. Well, what I'm trying to say is there are people who only want to have a really nice box. I am not one of these people, because I'm going to take this thing out and build it and throw the box away. Actually, the artwork on this is so nice, I might keep it. But, so it doesn't bother me if I get a crushed box. So, it's a win-win for both of us. Yes, this is quite nice. A lot more, actually, you know, I gotta tell you, it is a lot more involved than I thought it was going to be. I was expecting a much simpler kit than this. But it's got a nice base, and it's got some parts that can be lit, I'm assuming. And the clear bits, which, you know, everybody knows this is where 3PO came from. So it's no shock that it looks a bit 3PO-ish. This was the inspiration for 3PO. Ralph McQuarrie even said it. So yay! Maybe next week's, maybe the week after's project. But I have been holding a spot open on my schedule for this. Alrighty, I've got it up on its back because it is time to paint the stripes. I have got the chipping medium on there, and that's had time to dry. So now we're going to let the paint sit on there, and then we're going to let it dry for a while, and then come back to it, take all the masks off, and do the chipping. You can see, if you look closely, how it's already started just by itself to chip away. So I think we're going to be in good shape there. So let's get some yeller paint on it. And again, when we get to this area, okay, we're going to let that sit. Come back to it and peel everything off. Okay, not a bad first experiment with chipping using this particular chipping fluid and not using salt or hairspray or any of those other traditional methods. Got to touch up the silver a little bit, I think, but of course the secret is you know, how much to remove and how much to leave, and leaving enough that you know what's supposed to be there, but removing enough to make it interesting. Yeah, I like it. I think it'll work. Let's do the other side now. This side is still. What I don't like is how much of the chipping fluid came off, or how much, when I took the vinyl off, the chipping fluid stuck to the vinyl, and how much of that came off even before I had a chance to start doing anything. I do like the fact that it was, you know, cracking and turtle shelling and all the other kind of funky things before I even started removing it. But yeah, I think that's how it's supposed to work. Again, not to take off too much, but to take off just enough. I want to run the toothpick in here in the panel lines. You figure that might be an obvious wear point. Either you'd think the paint would stick in the panel lines, or else the edge of the panel would get a lot of turbulent abuse, and that might remove. That's just the stuff. Doing it this way just gives you that random pattern that you wouldn't get if you try to plan too much of it. It's become more apparent. wipe it off in here. And then let the rest of it dry. Alright, I've got the bird on its base. I've got it all wired in. I've got it connected up. I've got the little tiny switch here to do its thing. Two last things to do is to take the window masks off and to attach the guns. And that's about all there is left to do. Let me do that now. Let's see, we'll go about here just taking these guys off. I did a wash with a diluted black coat just to get in the cracks. I even took some of the Tamiya panel line accent, this stuff. I went through some of the lines with it to kind of bring out some detail there. But once I get all of these off, I'll plug it in and turn it on for you. And here we are in the dark, and turn on the lights, and babingi. Yes, that is very bright. Not as bright in person as it is on camera. But you know that story by now. And then here is the business end of those engines. And if you give it a second or two for that center bulb to warm up, it will start a flickering. But you can see the red marker lights, and they are also the reflections you can see on the bottom, so you know those bottom ones are lit. It's very subtle. The flicker is subtle, which is what I was wanting. I don't want it to be, see, maybe it's more noticeable. The flickering on the wall is it's more noticeable that way than staring straight at it, but that's what I was going for. I didn't want it to be blinking or make it look like there was something wrong. A lot of what you see here looks like a light leak, but it's not. It is, in fact, reflected light. That is not a light leak. That is spill light. But if you look carefully, and your camera doesn't mess up on you, you look in there, you can see a little Grogu sitting in his bassinet. If I had it all to do again, maybe I would have moved that light to the back, but again, I don't think I would have. I like it for what it does, even though it is maybe a little brighter than it would have been in real life. Okay, and here are the two Razor Crests side by side. Both very fine kits, both a good way to spend your time building models, but depending on what you want to get out of it, one is going to be probably your preference over the other. Ooh, pardon me, this is the afternoon sun coming in. That's going to do it this week for the Razor Crest build. Nice 1 week model, 1 week build. Great introduction model for a lot of good reasons. If people are interested in lighting a kit, this would be a great kit to learn on, because you've got all the room in the world for lighting these engines. They're designed specifically for it. There's not a lot of altering and work that you have to do to make it lightable. It's made with that in mind. If you're interested in running fiber optics or learning how to do that, it's a great test case for that. Between these guys up front and these guys up top, it would be great to learn how to run fiber optics by using a kit like this. If you're interested in learning how to use metallic finishes, also a great kit for learning on that, because it's a beat up metallic thing. So if it's not perfect, it's not going to strike against you. It's not like, say, a Naboo ship where you had to keep that pristine chrome. This you can practice your metallics on, and it'll still look okay. If you want to learn about doing washes, this is a great kit for that as well. It's a good all-around kit. I really enjoyed making it. I'm glad round 2 has finally got it released. I think it was worth the wait. And I can't wait to see what they do next, because I know they've got their deluxe Galileo shuttle coming up. That's going to be fun. They've got a couple more Star Wars kits in the future. That's going to be fun. So, as I said earlier in the week, it's feast or famine, and it's time to, dinner is served, it's time to chow down. This is a great model to start with. So, next week, we will be doing maybe the second course. This was an appetizer. Maybe the second course will be the Clipper. Maybe the second course will be the Maria. Might keep Maria for dessert. Might do Maria. If I do Maria next, then we'll have ship figure or ship robot ship rather than ship robot. And sometimes I don't like keeping all my ship together. So until next week, be good, be safe, be smart. Go out and vote if you haven't already. And we'll see you here next time.